O que acende a sua vontade de começar algo? Tem uma faísca em você que te chama para empreender, investir, dar novos rumos para sua vida. E para todos os seus começos, você pode contar com Santander Select. Um banco mais pessoal, mais próximo, mais humano. Um time de especialistas com olhar atento para cada momento da sua vida. Porque você sabe, só quem já deu muitos passos está pronto para continuar começando. Santander Select. Começa em você, começa agora.
Today on CityCast Philly, from street sweeping to road repairs, there's a massive citywide cleanup happening. It's all a part of a plan to clean up the city's nearly 18,000 blocks this summer. So how have the cleaning efforts been going? Mayor Rindy, investigative reporter at WHYY's Billy Penn, joins me to talk all about it. It's Thursday, July 18th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Mayor Rindy, welcome back to CityCast Philly.
Hey, Trinae, it's great to be here.
We're talking citywide cleanup here, and I actually have seen street sweeping trucks around Nicetown or Allegheny West. I've seen them on Fox Street. Have you seen these trucks driving around the city, cleaning things up?
So I haven't actually seen them myself, but I have talked to people who have seen trash trucks, who have seen workers with leaf blowers blowing trash off the sidewalk, and there have been photos posted on social media. So we know it's certainly been happening.
And I want to mention that in your reporting, you say that street sweeping is actually making a comeback in the city, right?
Yeah, over the last 2-3 years, they have been bringing back street sweeping. It started out pretty small in just a few neighborhoods where they thought litter was pretty bad, and it's been expanding gradually. It's now in a bunch of different neighborhoods around the city, and the mayor says she wants to expand it further.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's break down what this citywide cleaning effort really is. What are the goals here, Mayor?
Well, when the mayor took office, she said she wanted to combat blight. She wanted to show residents that their tax money was at work in their neighborhoods, in part by doing more cleanup, doing more trash cleanup, which is a huge issue in Philly, of course. And so they have a few different programs going. And one of them they announced at one point was that they were just going to have sanitation workers and people from different city departments go neighborhood by neighborhood through the entire city and sweep every block and do all kinds of other things like fix potholes, clean up vacant lots, clean up graffiti. And so they're sort of halfway through this 13-week summer citywide cleanup that they're calling One Philly.
For listeners whose neighborhoods haven't been visited just yet by the cleanup crews, what can they expect?
The people I talked to people in a couple neighborhoods in North Philly, and what everyone said was they saw sanitation workers with leaf blowers. Leaf blowers were sort of controversially introduced in the last couple years to let the workers blow trash away from the curbs without requiring people to move their cars, because making people move their cars was
Is a headache.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons that they stopped doing street sweeping with those trucks. So they're using these blowers, and people are saying, yeah, we see the blowers, we see the sidewalks being cleaned, we see the trucks in some cases coming and then picking up all that trash that gets blown into the street. And some people have seen other things, which it's unclear if it's always part of the One Philly program, but they have seen potholes being filled, vacant lots being cleaned up, being trimmed, graffiti being removed. Someone from the police department posted pictures of a block in North Philly where they said they'd towed a bunch of cars, sealed up abandoned houses, issued parking tickets, even recovered a gun. So they have all these different departments in addition to sanitation going and doing this work. Now, I should just say that some blocks are seeing a ton of work, and according to what people report, other blocks are just seeing a tiny little bit of cleaning. So it seems to vary a lot from place to place.
Okay, so my next question right there was just going to be, how is the city doing so far with this cleaning effort?
It's really hard to tell unless you follow around these workers all over the city. I'm just basing this on sort of anecdotal evidence, which is, like I said, some people are happy with it. They're like, this is really making a difference. I spoke to a woman who lives in East Oak Lane and is very involved in her community organization and in beautification of the neighborhoods. She said their neighborhood's already pretty clean because they're focused on it, but she said it was nice to see the city really paying attention to these things. There's still things that need to be done in her neighborhood. For example, their "We Buy Houses" signs stapled up on the telephone poles.
Oh, yes, I see those everywhere.
And the volunteers just can't get up there to pull those down. She's like, we'd like the city to come down and do that. So she was happy, but would like to see more, which I think was this reaction that a lot of people had. Other people say, for example, on Reddit, there are commenters who say there are all these issues on my block or in my neighborhood. There are 8 vacant lots, and maybe 2 got cleaned up, and the rest were ignored. Or there was a bunch of broken glass on the street which wasn't swept up, and maybe that happened right after the workers were there, and so on. So it's really hard to tell, but it seems that they are hitting every block at least briefly. Some of them are seeing a lot of impact. In other places, people are dissatisfied.
Mayor, of the residents that you spoke with about this particular issue, did they feel like maybe one neighborhood gets more attention than another?
I mean, that's the kind of thing you do hear people talk about. In the past, I've gotten a sense from people that they feel like, for example, Center City gets more attention, which it does in part because there are private organizations doing that cleaning. For this particular article, I spoke to one person in Tioga, for example, who said the city has talked about improving Tioga for a long time, and they haven't followed through, and we feel ignored. Now, that was broader than just trash, but certainly that's something you do hear from certain neighborhoods. They're like, why am I getting dumped on and not cleaned up? And other neighborhoods seem like they're better. So that's certainly a concern you hear quite frequently.
Interesting. Now, when is the deadline to touch all of the city blocks?
So I'm just looking at sort of a rough schedule here. It looks like they're doing a lot of the city this month: West Philly, Southwest, South Philly, parts of Northwest and Center City. And then in August, they're doing Northeast and most of Northwest Philly. So by the end of August, I think they're expecting to have at least touched every block.
More on the city cleanup after the break. What are some of the kind of lasting impacts that this citywide cleanup could have?
The mayor and other officials have said they want to do this regularly, a couple times a year, perhaps. And in fact, in an earlier incarnation of Mayor Parker's Clean and Green plan, they were talking about having sort of amped up sanitation work throughout the city on a kind of ongoing basis. So it seems like this citywide cleanup for the summer is kind of like almost like practice or a first example
Hmm.
of doing that. So if they do it repeatedly, presumably there would be sustained cleanliness, sustained reduction of blight, like vacant lots that attract trash and other nuisance problems. Whether they can do that, whether they have the funding and the manpower and so forth to do it on a kind of continuous or rolling basis, that remains to be seen. Some people have also said, well, if you start to clean up a little bit, then that'll encourage residents to do their own cleanup. People tend to litter less on clean blocks and pick up more and that sort of thing. So there's an idea that you could sort of engage civic pride and boost other efforts to do cleaning. That's a little bit speculative, but that's something people have talked about.
There's also this like interdepartmental focus on cleaning up business corridors and parks in neighborhoods too. Have we seen a citywide effort like this before?
I don't know that we've seen it before. certainly not in recent years. I mean, these different city agencies, for example, CLIP, the city's community life improvement program, that does licenses and inspection related work. I mean, those people are always at work, um, but I don't know that we've seen a coordination of sanitation, CLIP, the police, and even the school district, I think, was getting involved in this current effort. I don't know that we've seen it all at once. So perhaps that's a credit to the mayor's effort to kind of rally everyone to do the work together at once.
Gotcha. We've talked about the ongoing illegal trash dumping or short dumping that happens throughout the city here on the show. How is the Parker administration addressing those concerns in neighborhoods?
That's unclear to me. They've talked about, for example, installing more surveillance cameras in problematic places. There are already several hundred cameras, as I understand it, in places around the city. But then there's the issue of how do you watch those many cameras over time? And
Right.
then once you see that, then what do you do?
Like enforcement, right?
Yeah. Are there police officers who are dedicated to doing that, doing those investigations? Are prosecutors bringing charges? So in the past, all that has been lacking, or critics would say that there isn't nearly enough to actually deter people from dumping. You can dump and basically get away with it in the city. So I believe the Parker administration wants to improve that. I haven't heard exactly if they're doing it or how they're doing it.
What about trash cans? I know I kind of would like to see more trash cans because, you're walking around, you're like, okay, where do I put this? Where do I put this trash?
Yeah, the administration has been installing more public trash cans on some streets, I believe. The mayor's big focus is taking care of business, which is a commercial corridor program that she got going when she was on city council, which installs trash cans on commercial corridors and pays people to empty them and to clean up the corridors generally. And that's been seen as a big success, including for the employment it provides for the people who are in the program. So you could expand that to more blocks. You could even expand it to residential blocks. Again, it's a question of money and manpower. So there are things happening in that area. We'll have to see how big it gets and how sustainable it is.
For sure. Now, Mayor, if residents want the city to come out and clean their block, how should they reach out? How should they go about something like that?
One thing they could try is the 311 system, which is designed to connect people with all kinds of city services. So you can call 311. There's an app you can get on your phone and you can report things. You can take pictures of illegal dump sites, and that'll go to the city agencies and they'll hopefully respond. And that's for all kinds of things beyond trash as well.
All right. That was Mayor Rendy, investigative reporter at WHYY's Billy Penn. Mayor, thanks so much for breaking this all down for me on CityCast Philly.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
We'll have a link in the show notes where you can find out when cleanup crews are coming to your neighborhood this summer. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoy this episode about the citywide cleanup, tell your neighbor, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the Friday News Roundup. Bye. WHYY's Billy Penn's. Ooh, yeah, that's a tongue twister.
How about Mayor Rindy at WHYY's Billy Penn?
There you
Does that
go.
work?
There you go.
That's a mouthful.